Hello everybody and welcome to this texturing and rendering tutorial in which I'm going to show you how easy it is in Fusion 360 to add materials to your design. In this exercise, we will work primarily with solid wood, which will be applied to all these bodies, and then we will use the face mode to add a different material to those selected surfaces. And since we're working with three-dimensional wood in Fusion 360, I will also show you then how we can reposition that texture on all these individual bodies so it later looks like that every wood piece was truly cut out of a different part of a tree trunk. When all that is done, then we will make a quick jump to the render environment. I will quickly run you through the different elements, for example, how to set something up, how to do the in-canvas rendering, and also do then the final rendering. And here in the gallery are, for example, two different versions already done. There's one version and there is the other version. Cool. Okay. And with all that said, well, let's do it. By the way, as a note, this is the render video to a previous modeling video. For those who didn't do that 3D modeling yet, the link to that video is in the description of this video. So let me show you now how we can add materials to different parts of our design and then create a rendering in Fusion 360. I'm inside the design workspace. My design is open, and to add a material, we have to call the appearance menu, which is on inside or the modify menu, or you can press A. Inside the appearance menu, we have three sections: apply to in this design and library. Inside library, logically, as you can see, we have all the materials listed. In this design, lists only the materials that are being used. So for example, right now, this is like a powder coated rough gray material. And then apply to, that means is this material applied to the whole body or, for example, a specific face. Very good. Cool. So we want to end up with a design where everything is made out of wood, and then the top surfaces we sit on or work with, we would like to be treated, for example, with a white laminate. In Fusion, if you go down, we have wood and wood solid. Under wood, we have two-dimensional images, so wood textures. This is not what we want to use. We want to use the solid wood. Actually, the three-dimensional wood in Fusion is really amazing. We go to finish, you see we have different wood types: ash, glossy, or maple, semi-glossy, ash, semi-glossy, and so forth. We also have painted versions, stained versions, and unfinished versions. And you see here there's also a download button, so if this is not downloaded yet, you have to click on this button. Cool. Okay. So we would like to see how this looks maybe with pine. I can simply drag this onto all these bodies. There we are. And if we now zoom in, look at this. This is pretty cool actually. We truly have end grain and then how the wood would look from the side. This is actually pretty awesome. So this is actually what a three-dimensional wood means. If we would change the geometry, the sides will be textured always very accurately as we are carving this out of a tree trunk. Here we can select this and then drag this onto this material icon, and this way we replace it with the pine wood. So we had actually bodies and components applied to selected. Now we can go to faces. With three-dimensional wood, you need to first define the wood, and then we can go to faces and select individual surfaces and give them a different material. So this order is very important. Goodie. With that done, we can then go to, let's say, paint. And we have different materials. We can select glossy, and we have here various enamel paints. Let's drag this one onto there. Beautiful. And you see, by having all these faces selected, drawing it on, all these got colorized. Now I can always go back, add this also to here, to individual materials, to see there, it gives you I don't like this. That's the reason why. First the material that is 3D, and then later we can add the two-dimensional material. When I double click on this material, I can change the color, for example. I can change the roughness or how reflective that surface is. If I double click the wood material, well, logically here I also can change the color of the wood. I can also play with everything that defines the wood, rings, and so forth. Beautiful. Okay. This one actually got changed a little bit, so I will revert this one to that flop. Now all is updated. There's one tiny problem, however. You see here, this is all looking great. This actually should be rotated. I would like these things to be a little bit more random. Specifically here, if this is always at the same position, that looks a little bit computer generated. Not so great. So how can we do this? That's actually pretty easy. So I will go to there, here's that body, and then right click, and then I can say texture map control. And now all I need to do is go into a 3D view. There we are. And then I can, for example, rotate this one. You see, I match this. If I go to this one, maybe here I move this a little bit to the side. Select this one, go down a little bit, maybe to there. Here, maybe move this one down too. So you see, it was actually pretty easy this way to customize the look and make it look more realistic, I would say, more natural, not too much computer generated. Maybe this one we put to there. Very good. Cool. Okay. So it was a pretty easy fix, and it worked out really well. I will go here, right click, maybe bring this to there, and bring this to there. Very good. Sweet. So you saw, like, when we are three-dimensionally moving that material, all the edges updated and truly shows the geometry like it would be cut out of that piece of wood, which is why this three-dimensional material is so amazing. Okay, so the texturing is done. How do we do now the quick rendering? For that, we will switch the workspace. So I click on design and switch from design to the render workspace. Here we are. You see, we have our objects here, but everything looks slightly a little bit different. Let me explain kind of like what we have here. Again, there's the appearance material. Then this is the button where we can set up our render environment. Here is something for decals and the texture button to move materials around, rendering on the computer, and rendering in the cloud. Perfect. Cool. So let's actually go to render settings and take a look at what we have here. We have the environment, something for the background, the color, something for the ground, camera settings, and we have an environment. If I double click this one, so it will take a second, and now things look different. If I click this one, you see here things changed. So first, let's go to settings and switch the background from solid color to the environment. And then when I rotate my view, you see, oh, there's actually an environment. So I go to double click cool light. Up there I see there's one light, there's other lights, so left and right, there's a backdrop. Now you can see there's actually an image of a backdrop behind. I would like to have a nice soft lighting, so I click on soft light or warm light. With warm light, I have longer shadows. I can go to a specific view I like and go to settings. And then when I click on position, I can then rotate this around a little bit. And this actually will rotate that 360-degree image. So let's say like this. And how would this look when we hit render? Well, just click on this in canvas render button. You will see that the rendering then starts. It at the beginning is very grainy, and then over time it gets cleaner and cleaner. Pay attention to how different actually the shadows look. So when I stop this rendering, you see this is not really the same shadow we get. So don't pay too much attention to the drop shadow preview you see there. Oh, this is actually quite nice. And we can just rotate this around a little bit. In that case, actually, it makes more sense to do this in this view because we can better see the shape and then hit render. Very nice. Beautiful. If we do like kind of like this rotation, we can click on this position icon again, and then this is good. With the camera, we can switch between orthographic or perspective views. For example, we can change this to be more wide angle or a telelens. That, for example, changes the look if the image is more perspectively distorted. With a tele, we have less perspective for shortening. There's also a depth of field effect. When we click on it, we can pick certain points. Then that is sharp. The background will be more blurry. Or we turn this one off. So you see, it's actually pretty easy. We can turn on, for example, reflections. Then we see something on the ground. We can also play with how rough these reflections are. So the rougher, the more muted they are. If we do this at 0, then this is more like a glass surface. When we switch the background to a solid color, then we can do things like maybe turn this into a really dark environment. The drop shadows are gone, but for example, now we see the reflections on the ground much better. So here, if I increase this a little bit, you see that the reflection then gets softer. Or we can also turn this one off if we don't want it to. Or we can also work with a color, for example. Say like this and tune this a little bit. Nice. Two things left, which are actually really important to know, because otherwise that's really all that there is to know about how to make renderings in Fusion 360. I click the stop button here. Let's say this is a really nice view and we want to keep that view. Oh, so traditionally you have cameras you position. Here you don't have cameras you could jump into, but we have views. So if I click on this corner, I'm kind of like in this specific front view. There, let's say like this. And then I can here right click and say new name view. And that's kind of like a front ground level, for example. And then when I rotate this view a little bit, let's say to there, right click make a new one. Let's say 3D view corner. So, and then when you click on these individual buttons, you see how this then switches to it. So it's a very easy way when you always come back to the scene and you want to make a new rendering and hit exactly the same perspective. Now, image is rendered from the same position, then that is the way how to do it. And then we have the last thing, the render button. So when we click this one, we get this menu. We can specify the size, local render or cloud. This is specifically good for cloud. Final quality, yes, of course. Here's a prediction of the render time, and then hit render. Basically what it does, it takes that geometry, uploads it online, and then it creates a rendering online. When it's done, for example, here I have one image that is finished. You can open it inside the gallery. There we are. And then we can just download it via the download button. And that's basically it for the quick crash course into how to add two materials to this furniture piece and then create a rendering.